Okay guys, I just want to say first and foremost, thank you so much for the support that y'all are showing on the last video. We've not only surpassed 4,000 subscribers, but we've also made sure that that video is my most viewed video in under like 4 days. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I'm gonna keep putting out the best content I can for you guys. I would like to apologize for the comments I couldn't respond to on that video as well. I usually try to respond to every comment, but at some point I kinda got lost in the sauce. So I'll still do my best to respond to all the comments I can, but when a video performs that good, I can't guarantee I'll get to all of them. And I was also really wondering where to go after making that video, but I realized that I'm not gonna overthink it, and I'm just gonna do whatever idea comes to my mind. By the way, since I realize I have a lot of new faces here, hi. My name is pronounced Dugis, like Douglas, but without the L, and I talk about basketball. Without further ado, let's get into it. This is a bit of a new concept for my channel, and while 2K has to do with basketball, it also leans more towards the gaming side, which I've never touched on in any videos like ever. However, I do love video games. I wouldn't consider myself much of a gamer anymore just due to the lack of time that becoming an adult leaves you with, but I still hop on from time to time. However, I will say that I didn't really play NBA 2K26. There are just certain things about the game that I don't really like, namely the business practices, and I just don't exactly need to play a basketball game to get my fix. It's funny though, because if y'all watch my video on the 2018 Rockets, 2K is what got me into basketball back when I was a kid. I downloaded the trial for 2K26 off PS Plus a month or two ago one night because I was bored, and I'll be honest, it wasn't that bad to me. Granted, I only played 2 Play Now games, and I haven't tapped in the 2K community in quite some time, so I don't know the general perception of the game this year, but it's probably bad. It's been bad for quite some time now. Anyways, I'm here to talk about something that caught my eye the other day. It's that time of year where 2K starts trying to hype up the new release, and so they've been releasing players' ratings day by day. I know the whole point is to stir up controversy, and I genuinely think some of these ratings are shown off to spark conversation about the game close to launch day, but I've decided to bite on the bait today. This isn't going to be some basketball power scaling video, but I do want to point out some of the things that caught my eye and made me scratch my head a little. NBA 2K27 just finally released their top 10 players in the game, and it goes in order: Shea, Wemby, and Jokic, all in the top 3 with a 97 overall, which I'm not mad at. I think all 3 of these guys are interchangeable, even if the narrative around Jokic has gotten a little nasty over the past few months. But where it first starts to get nasty is in the 11 to 20 range. Upon closer examination, you'll see that LeBron James is a 91. Okay, that sounds about right. He wasn't going to be a 95 and above forever, but then you see Joel Embiid is a 91. Okay, he hasn't played much recently, so I understand that his overall is lower from previous games. I can't hate on it. If he starts stringing together some good performances, I'm sure it'll go up throughout the course of the season. But then you get to Jaylen Brown, and I understand that maybe Jaylen Brown's performance was not up to many people's standards in the first round of the playoffs, but a 91? Jaylen Brown at this point in his career is clearly a better player than LeBron James, and I'd even say Embiid as well. I don't think I'll get much pushback on that either. I don't know how 2K calculates overall, but there is just no way Jaylen Brown, a player coming off of an All-NBA second team selection, as well as leading a decent MVP campaign for a good chunk of the season, should be the same rating as LeBron James, who is turning 42 in December, and clearly didn't show himself to be better than Jaylen Brown last season. Not to mention, having the 4 best players from the 76ers in places 15, 16, 17, and 18 just seems pretty lazy. I understand that 2K must have some type of formula that calculates these overall ratings using the individual stat ratings. I have close to no doubt about that. But with that being said, and it'll be proven later, some of these individual stat ratings are just as bad as the overall ratings are. Let's also address the elephant in the room: rating inflation. As many of you know, especially if you've played former 2Ks, ratings have become increasingly inflated year after year. In former years, an overall in the 90s was a privilege reserved for the literal best of the best. There was once a time where the number of players that had an overall rating in the 90s was less than 10. Now, when you go down the list, Anthony Davis is the first 90 overall in the game, and he's in the 21st spot. There are 21 players with an overall rating of 90 or more, and I honestly think that's ridiculous. In 2K15, there were 4 players in the 90s: LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, and Tim Duncan. In 2K16, there were 6, with LeBron James, the clear best player in the world at the time, only having a 94 overall rating. However, in 2K17, a game in which a lot of people, including myself, have nostalgia for now, but let's not forget at the time it was received pretty poorly, the first signs of rating inflation started to show. There were now 11 players with an overall rating of 90 or more, and by 2K18, there were 16. I know the common explanation for this is, of course, that the players are just getting better. But the biggest difference between today and the game 10 or even 20 years ago isn't really the top end talent to me. It's how good the role players are. The role players of today's game are asked to do more than they ever have been. And that's why I can understand the abundance of 80 overalls in the latest 2Ks, even if I still don't think there should be that much. But an overall of 90 or more just used to mean a lot more. But now there's 21 players that have that, and I just don't think some of them really deserve it as much as the others do. But I guess that's because the concept of what it means to be a 90 overall has fundamentally changed now. And by the way, I would also like to say that I don't think any of this affects the game itself poorly, though if it does, I wouldn't know, because I haven't been playing. Rating inflation doesn't just stop there though. The number of players with an overall of 80 or more is even greater. And like I said, I understand. In the previous 2Ks of around 10 to 12 years ago, the number of players with an overall of 80 or more was usually around 50 to 60, reserved usually for the better role players or maybe stars that are a little bit past their prime, and obviously the guys that aren't exactly superstars, towards the high end of the 80s. But this year, we don't even know how many players have an overall of 80 or more because Walker Kessler is the 100th highest rated player in the game, and he's an 81 overall. Just so y'all know, it only goes up to the top 100 players. That's why we don't know how many 80 overalls there are in the game. And I understand that the role players of today's league are much better than they used to be. There's no really arguing that. It's clear as day when you watch a game from 2026 compared to a game in 2016. They're simply just tasked with doing more outside of defending and knocking down a few open shots a game. The way roster construction is done now, you need guys that can step into greater roles when asked, as well as just doing more of everything. I'm also not saying that the role players of yesterday weren't asked to do stuff like that. I think it was just on a much smaller scale compared to today. However, for over 100 players to have an overall of 80 or more just seems crazy. Like, triple digits? Really? What about when you play with old teams? It has to be balanced, so are their role players' ratings boosted as well? That would be super inaccurate, but I digress. I think my point has been made about rating inflation. There are a few nitpicks that I have with these overall ratings. Some players are getting blatantly disrespected, while other players are getting blatantly glazed out in the open for everyone to see. Zach LaVine is an 82 in this year's game. 82. The same as Paul George. I know that Zach LaVine has been hurt and probably hasn't been as effective as he once was back when he was on the Bulls, but I really don't think he's worse than Paul George. I also understand how good someone like OG Anunoby was last season and all playoffs, but having him over multiple first and second options on other teams seems a bit crazy, you know? Like, he's a great defender and has a pretty decent offensive bag, and he probably provides more winning value to other teams and would be able to do it to more teams than someone like Paolo or Austin Reeves. But is he really better at basketball than them? I just don't know if I can say that. The rookie ratings are also something that caught my attention. They kind of did it pretty similarly to draft order, which kind of makes sense, but I do disagree with a few of these. My first thought was, why is Jaxa Lindeborg not in the top 10? He's an older guy, and I think he's, at least in terms of immediate impact, probably going to be better than some of these guys towards the bottom, like Kingston Flemings, whose role is still kind of up in the air. He actually won Summer League MVP too. He was probably the best player in the Summer League. I also think it's pretty lazy that you gave the top 3 picks all the 79 overall, which is one kind of crazy because in previous 2Ks, we've seen the number 1 overall pick get 80 or 81 overalls. But in this draft class, which is supposed to be one of the best, nobody has an 80 overall. I also think AJ is clearly the best, but if you were going to give all 3 of them a 79 overall, why not give Caleb Wilson a 79 too? I think he's pretty clearly on their level, and I don't really think you can say that he's a whole 2 overalls less than Cam Boozer. Keaton Wagler is also a bit too high for me, but I understand that I'm lower on him than the actual consensus on him, so I'll concede that. And then we get into the individual stat ratings. These are things like your 3-pointer, your midi, your dunk, etc. And I would just like to say that there is not and will never be 6 mid-range shooters in the league better than Kevin Durant while he's still playing. It's ridiculous to even suggest that idea, and I understand that Jokic is a good shooter and he can take middies from the high post and knock them down very consistently, but really? The second highest mid-range stat in the game? And then Trey Johnson at 4 over Kevin Durant? And I'm not saying that Trey Johnson doesn't deserve to be there. If you've watched the Wizards at any point over the last year, you'd know just how elite of a mid-range shooter Trey Johnson really is. But to say that his mid-range shot is better than Kevin Durant's is insane. I don't care what the stats say, it's Kevin Wayne Durant, bro. This whole list just seemed kind of weird to me and was the biggest indicator that this is genuinely probably just for clicks and reactions. Specifically this list too. Stephon Castle doesn't have a top 10 driving dunk, even though that feels pretty deserved. And I don't even rock with Castle like that, but I gotta give props. I've seen a lot of people upset with Fox still being the fastest player in the game, but we have to remember that he was battling an injury all playoffs. And even if you think Maxey should be over him, which may be true, De'Aaron Fox having a high speed rating is still 100% valid, and he should at least be top 3. I honestly thought people would be more mad at Kingston Flemings or Darius Acuff being on the list just because they haven't really played a game yet. I guess I was wrong on that too. The ball handling ratings weren't bad, to be honest, and the perimeter defense was a little crazy because I felt like Castle might have been there, but I'm not super pressed about it. I already defended him once. I'm not going to defend a Spurs player again. At the end of the day though, it's just 2K ratings. It's a video game, but I did think it was a neat topic to dive into. I'm sure 2K is worth well over $1 billion, so I'm also sure that they have a team of guys working specifically on making these ratings as accurate as possible. And that only fuels my theory that they get some of these ratings wrong on purpose for reactions and controversy more. And honestly, every year we get mad over them. We only confirm that it works. But are we going to stop? No. I just made a whole YouTube video on it. The same way we're not going to stop buying the game. The same way we're not going to stop spending money on VC. Truth is, it's fun to poke fun at it and point out the inconsistencies, even if it's what they want us to do. So I'll probably do this again next year and a year after that, and probably until I retire. What do you guys think is a good time to retire from YouTube? Should I treat it like a regular job and retire at like 60? You guys think YouTube will be around when I'm 60? I'm only 19 right now, but probably, right? Like everyone watches YouTube. I probably watch more YouTube than I do Netflix or Hulu combined. Anyways, it was fun doing this. Thank you guys so much for watching once again. Thank you for all the support y'all have been showing lately. Thank you for getting me on them hype leaderboards. It's the first time that's ever happened on this channel. Thank you for 4,000 subscribers, and I hope y'all enjoyed this video as well. A couple of shameless plugs. Follow me on Instagram, you know, if you have Instagram. Follow me on TikTok. I post about basketball. I do like film analysis and stuff on there. And if you've been here for a while, you know I make music. You can probably tell by the big music icon right next to my name on YouTube. And I do have a song coming out on the 21st. It's called Aimbot, and that'll be the outro song for today in case y'all want to listen to it. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'll catch y'all later. Peace. All right, so a couple of things that I just forgot to mention in the video. It was one, the whole gameplay aspect of things. I know that gameplay is obviously the most important part of the game. It's the part that people actually play. So I'm sure there are gameplay considerations that I just can't understand that go into making these ratings because I'm simply just not a game developer. I forgot to, you know, kind of preface it. So this is me saying that, yes, I understand that there are certain gameplay implications that go into these ratings, but that still doesn't make them any less stupid on paper. I would also like to say shout out to the Deep 3 Pod for commenting on my last video. I was geeking when I saw that. I've been watching the D3 Pod for a minute now. I love the stuff they do, and I know B-Souls isn't there every time, but specifically B-Souls, I've been watching him since I was like genuinely very little, like a child. So yeah, it definitely made me happy to see them showing love, and shout out to them. All right, for real this time, thank you for watching. I'll catch y'all later. Peace.
No one will shit like I got aimbot. Nigga wanna sit back, cool, we can bang by. I heard that nigga wanna sit back. I heard Dugis and it's cool, he got sit back. When she second, she gon' drool like it whiplash. I just walked inside a bank with a big bag. What you think you doing to me? Is you fun? Brand new jeans from overseas, got a party.